In the soft morning light of a crisp spring day, the outdoor firing range hummed with the low murmur of seasoned shooters preparing their gear. The air was thick with the metallic scent of spent casings and gun oil, punctuated by occasional sharp cracks from distant shots echoing through the open field. Among the various lanes bustling with confident hands and familiar faces, a young woman stepped quietly onto the gravel path leading to an empty lane near the far edge of the range. Emily Carter moved with deliberate calm, her footsteps measured and light, almost hesitant against the coarse stones. At 26, her slight frame and unassuming presence seemed to contrast starkly with the rugged environment of grizzled marksmen and hardened competitors, many years her senior. She carried a small, well-worn range bag over one shoulder, its surface marked with faint scuffs and faded patches that whispered of frequent use but careful maintenance. Her pale blue eyes scanned the targets downrange with a quiet intensity, betraying a focus that belied her otherwise modest appearance. As Emily approached the lane, a ripple of whispered amusement spread from a nearby group of shooters gathered beneath a weathered canopy. They leaned casually on their benches, exchanging glances and smirks. At their center stood Tom, a man in his late 30s with a cocky grin and an easy swagger that seemed to command the attention of those around him. His dark hair was cut short, and a faint scar traced the edge of his jaw, lending him an air of rough experience. Tom's eyes flicked toward Emily with a mixture of curiosity and condescension, the kind born from countless encounters with novices who stumbled onto the range expecting to impress. "Well, look who's here," Tom sneered, loud enough for Emily to hear, but with a tone that invited laughter rather than welcome. "What's the matter, sweetheart? Lost your way to the craft store or something?" A few chuckles rippled through the group, punctuated by the clink of brass casings being jostled in pockets and the occasional cough. The other shooters, seasoned and confident, exchanged knowing looks, their expressions ranging from mild amusement to barely concealed disdain. The range was a place where reputation and skill were currency, and newcomers, especially young women, often found themselves the target of skepticism, if not outright derision. Emily's lips pressed into a thin line, her face calm and unreadable. She did not respond to the taunts, nor did she allow the laughter to rattle her composure. Instead, she set her bag down with a soft thud on the bench beside the lane and began unpacking her gear with deliberate care. Her movements were slow but assured, revealing a familiarity with the process that quietly defied the assumptions of the watching crowd. Tom's smirk deepened as he watched her extract a compact pistol from a protective case lined with foam. "Hope you know what you're doing," he called out, voice dripping with sarcasm. "This ain't no toy." Emily's fingers deftly checked the pistol's components, methodically inspecting the barrel, slide, and magazine with practiced precision. Her hands were steady, her motions fluid and confident. The group's laughter waned as they noticed the absence of hesitation or fumbling typical of inexperienced shooters. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd, curiosity edging out derision. Near the back of the range, Jake, a rugged man in his early 40s with a reputation as a reliable marksman, leaned forward to observe. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully as he took in Emily's methodical approach. There was something in the grace of her movements and the calm steadiness of her gaze that hinted at a deeper familiarity with firearms than her youthful appearance suggested. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the range as Emily adjusted her stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, torso squared toward the target. She positioned her arms with quiet confidence, the pistol held firmly yet relaxed in her grip. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a low buzz of anticipation. Tom shifted uneasily, sensing the change in mood but unwilling to concede. "Don't get cocky just yet," he muttered, mostly to himself but loud enough for those nearest to hear. Emily's eyes remained fixed on the target downrange, her expression serene as she took a slow breath, centering herself in the moment. The crowd watched, some leaning forward on their benches, others exchanging glances that conveyed a newfound respect mixed with surprise. The initial skepticism that had filled the air was giving way to intrigue. Among the onlookers, a few younger shooters began to whisper excitedly, speculating about the quiet woman who had arrived unannounced and now held the attention of the entire range. Her unassuming demeanor was a stark contrast to the bravado and noise that usually filled these lanes, and her silent confidence was beginning to unsettle the hierarchies that had dominated the morning. Emily's presence, once an object of ridicule, had become a subtle challenge to the assumptions held by those around her. Without a word, she was rewriting the script of what they expected from someone who looked like her, young, slight, and quiet. As the tension built, the wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves of nearby trees and carrying the faint scent of pine and earth across the firing line. The range, once a place of casual competition and predictable routines, now thrummed with a different energy, one charged with anticipation and unspoken questions. Emily's hands remained steady as she checked the sights on her pistol one last time, her gaze never wavering from the target. The crowd held its breath, caught between doubt and the promise of something unexpected. The stage was set for a demonstration that would challenge their preconceptions, but for now, only silence answered the waiting. Tom exchanged a glance with a few of his friends, the cocky smile faltering slightly as uncertainty crept in. There was no denying the quiet competence radiating from the young woman at the lane, competence that refused to be dismissed. The mockery that had filled the morning air now hung suspended, replaced by a cautious respect, fragile but growing. Emily adjusted her grip one final time, her fingers curling around the pistol with a practiced ease that spoke of hours spent honing her craft in solitude. The moment stretched, the firing range holding its collective breath beneath the brightening sky, waiting for the first shot to shatter the silence and reveal the truth behind the quiet woman who had dared to enter their world. The soft tension that had settled over the firing range seemed to crystallize as Emily Carter took a measured step back from the bench, her fingers still lightly resting on the pistol's grip. The murmurs of the crowd, once loud and dismissive, had quieted into an expectant hush, the kind that precedes something rare and compelling. Faces previously twisted in smirks now softened into expressions of tentative curiosity. Emily's breath was steady, her chest rising and falling with a calm rhythm that contrasted sharply with the jittery energy of the onlookers. She bent slightly, picking up a small stack of targets from her bag, a collection of standard bullseye sheets marked by concentric rings and a bright red center. With deliberate care, she placed one on the wooden frame at the far end of her lane, ensuring it was perfectly aligned and taut. The precision of her actions suggested a deep respect for the craft, an unspoken reverence that caught the attention of even the most cynical observers. Tom, still lingering near his group but noticeably quieter, shifted his weight uneasily. His eyes flicked back and forth between Emily's focused face and the pistol cradled in her hands. The cocky bravado that had fueled his earlier taunts was now tempered by a flicker of doubt. He leaned toward one of his companions, speaking low enough that only a few could hear. "She's got a steady hand, I'll give her that. But this is just the warm-up. Wait till she starts shooting." Emily's hands moved with a calm precision that seemed almost ritualistic. She lifted the pistol, checking the sights with a practiced eye, adjusting the alignment by a fraction of an inch. The small adjustments were subtle but meaningful, revealing a depth of experience that transcended mere familiarity. It was the kind of meticulous preparation that only comes from countless hours spent honing one's skills in solitude and discipline. The crowd, initially skeptical, began to lean in, their previous amusement fading into a respectful silence. Jake, standing a few lanes down with his arms crossed, watched intently. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully as he observed Emily's deliberate routine. He recognized the hallmark signs of advanced training. The way she checked her grip, the subtle yet effective stance she adopted, the quiet confidence in her movements. It was clear she was no novice. Emily adjusted her feet, widening her stance slightly to anchor herself firmly. Her knees bent just enough to absorb recoil, and her shoulders squared forward in a stance that balanced stability with flexibility. The pistol was raised smoothly, her elbows angled to minimize muscle fatigue while maintaining control. She exhaled softly, centering herself as the world around her seemed to blur into insignificance. The chatter among the onlookers lessened further, replaced by a hum of focused attention. Even Tom's group had quieted, their eyes locked on the young woman who was now embodying a calm that bordered on unshakable. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that builds before a crucial moment. Emily's finger hovered just above the trigger, steady and unmoving, as she took one final breath. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the distant calls of birds and the faint rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. The range, once a place of casual competition and brash confidence, now felt suspended in a moment of quiet reverence. Tom's lips twitched, a reluctant acknowledgement of the shift in mood. "All right, quiet down," he muttered, partly to regain control, partly to conceal his own growing respect. "Let's see what you've got." Emily did not respond. Instead, she took a slow, deliberate step back to prepare for the first shot. Her posture remained impeccable, her gaze unwavering. The pistol, now firmly gripped, felt like a natural extension of her hand rather than a foreign object. The precision of her setup suggested a deep familiarity, a bond forged through discipline and countless hours of practice. Jake exchanged a glance with a nearby shooter and nodded subtly. "That's no beginner," he whispered, his voice low but laced with respect. "She's got technique that most people spend years trying to perfect." The crowd began to lean forward, their skepticism giving way to curiosity and quiet admiration. Whispers circulated like a gentle tide. "Look at that grip, steady as a rock. See how she aligns her sights? Professional. Wonder where she learned all that." Emily's eyes flicked briefly to the target, then back down the sights. Her focus was absolute, a beacon of calm in the midst of the growing anticipation. The pistol was raised smoothly, her arms steady and controlled. The moment was charged with potential, the kind that can silence a crowd and rewrite narratives. Tom's earlier mockery seemed a distant memory as he found himself involuntarily drawn into the unfolding scene. The cocky grin was replaced by a shadow of doubt, his posture less assured. He shifted his stance, crossing his arms, but no longer sneering. His eyes locked on Emily's movements, measuring and recalculating. Emily's finger pressed gently against the trigger, the weight of the pistol balanced perfectly in her hand. The shot rang out, a sharp, clean crack that sliced through the air with precision. The bullet struck the center of the target, the red bullseye marked with a neat hole that spoke volumes about the shooter's skill. The crowd exhaled collectively, the tension breaking like a wave. A ripple of astonished murmurs spread through the onlookers. Some exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of surprise and newfound respect. The quiet young woman who had entered the range unnoticed was now commanding their full attention. Emily lowered the pistol with a calm grace, her face serene but focused. The sound of her shot still echoed faintly, leaving a trail of quiet awe in its wake. Tom's lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, he simply nodded, a reluctant gesture of recognition toward the shooter who had upended his expectations. The atmosphere had shifted palpably. What began as a scene of skepticism and quiet mockery had transformed into one of respectful silence, punctuated by the soft hum of anticipation. Emily's methodical preparation and steady confidence had begun to erode the walls of doubt that had surrounded her. Jake stepped forward slightly, eyes bright with interest. "Not many can hold that kind of composure," he remarked quietly to a nearby shooter. "She's got the kind of calm that tells you she's been through the fire before." The group watching Emily seemed to lean in closer, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by a genuine desire to witness what she could do next. The range, once filled with laughter and snide comments, was now a theater of quiet respect, each spectator acutely aware that they were witnessing something uncommon. Emily's steady hands began to prepare for another shot. There was no rush, no flurry of movement, only deliberate, confident actions that spoke of deep experience and quiet strength. The transition from skeptic to believer was quietly unfolding in real time, and the crowd was captivated. Tom finally broke the silence, his voice low but carrying a grudging respect. "All right, I'm listening now. Show us what else you've got." The phrase, simple yet loaded with meaning, echoed through the range. It was no longer a challenge born of mockery, but an invitation to prove skill and earn respect. Emily's poised response, her unshaken calm, was the answer the firing line had been waiting for. The sharp echo of Emily's first shot still lingered in the cool morning air when she smoothly reloaded her pistol with a practiced flick of her wrist. The magazine slipped effortlessly into the grip, the metallic click resonating clearly, signaling readiness. Her fingers adjusted the grip with subtle precision, the way one might steady a familiar instrument before a performance. The crowd, a mix of hardened competitors and casual shooters, watched intently, their earlier skepticism replaced by a growing sense of intrigue. Emily's eyes scanned the target downrange again, her gaze steady and unwavering, betraying no hint of nervousness. The pistol was raised once more, her arms steady and controlled as she aligned the sights with a calm that was almost meditative. The silence among the onlookers deepened, punctuated only by the soft rustling of leaves and distant bird calls. It was clear to all that this was no ordinary novice testing her luck. Jake, standing a few lanes away, shifted his weight, his eyes narrowing as he observed her technique. The fluidity of her movements, the seamless reload, and the unshakable calm under pressure spoke of someone with extensive experience. "That's advanced stuff," he muttered to a nearby shooter. "Most shooters don't move that smooth unless they've been trained to handle pressure." Tom's earlier bravado had all but dissipated. His arms were crossed, but his gaze was fixed, a mixture of disbelief and reluctant respect painting his features. He exchanged a glance with a few of his friends, who now wore expressions of quiet amazement rather than scorn. Emily's finger pressed the trigger again, and the pistol cracked sharply in the stillness. The bullet struck the target dead center, precisely within the bullseye. The crowd's reaction was immediate but subdued. An impressed murmur rippled through the observers as they leaned forward, eager to see if this was a mere stroke of luck or the start of a remarkable display. She repeated the process with calm precision, each shot punctuating the air with crisp, controlled reports. One after another, the bullets found their mark, each impact a testament to her steadiness and skill. The target bore a series of neat, clustered holes that left no doubt about her accuracy. The murmurs grew into whispers of disbelief. Jake took a step closer, nodding appreciatively. "Look at that grip adjustment. See how she manages recoil? She's not just shooting. She's controlling the pistol, anticipating every move." His voice held a reverence reserved for those who truly understood the nuances of marksmanship. The group that had once mocked Emily now exchanged glances filled with newfound respect. Some shook their heads, as if to clear away the fog of their earlier judgments. Tom's lips pressed into a thin line, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. The cocky confidence that had defined him moments ago was replaced by an unsettled awareness that he was witnessing something beyond his expectations. Emily's calm demeanor and flawless technique began to shift the atmosphere at the range. The quiet confidence she exuded was infectious, encouraging even the most doubtful observers to reconsider their assumptions. A few younger shooters, previously hesitant, whispered among themselves, their voices filled with admiration for the precision and control on display. One of them, a lanky young man with keen eyes named Tyler, nudged his friend and nodded toward Emily. "She's got the kind of focus we've all been chasing. I've seen pros who can't hold that kind of composure." His comment set off a ripple of agreement among the nearby shooters, many of whom had spent years honing their craft. Emily's steady repetition of shots, each landing with unerring accuracy, began to draw attention beyond the immediate crowd. A few passers-by paused near the entrance, curious about the sudden hush and the unmistakable sound of expert shooting. The range, usually a place of casual practice, had become a stage for something exceptional. Jake's experience allowed him to recognize subtle details others might miss. Notice how she's managing her breathing? Inhale, exhale, slow and steady. That's a hallmark of advanced training. Shooting isn't just about muscle, it's about control. His voice carried the weight of knowledge, and those nearby listened intently. Emily's face remained serene, her eyes flicking briefly to the target before returning to the sights. The smooth rhythm of her shots was punctuated only by the crisp reports of the pistol. The air was thick with a growing respect that transcended age and experience. Tom finally broke the silence, his voice low but tinged with reluctant admiration. "Okay, that's more than just luck or beginner's luck. You've clearly got skills, no doubt." His words carried the weight of someone beginning to reassess long-held beliefs. Emily acknowledged no one with words, but her slight nod in response was enough to further shift the dynamic. The crowd's mood evolved from skepticism to a tentative acceptance, and in some cases, genuine awe. Tyler stepped forward, unable to contain his curiosity. "Hey, I'm Tyler," he said, extending a hand toward Emily. "I've trained at the same tactical school you showed us earlier. Never met you before, but your technique, it's impressive." His tone was friendly, carrying a subtle note of camaraderie that suggested shared experience. Emily's brief smile was the first crack in her composed exterior. She shook his hand firmly, a quiet acknowledgement of the connection. "Emily," she replied simply, her voice steady but warm. Jake, still observing, added quietly, "Whatever your story is, it's clear you've put in the work. Not many can shoot like that under pressure." The crowd, now fully engaged, began to see Emily not as an outsider or a quiet newcomer, but as a skilled shooter with a story worth uncovering. The transformation in perception was palpable, as the energy shifted from doubt to admiration. Emily's composed presence and flawless shooting had begun to break down the invisible walls erected by prejudice and assumption. The range, once a place where her presence was questioned, now buzzed with conversations about her skill and the quiet confidence she brought. The sun climbed higher, casting dappled light across the range as Emily prepared for another round. Her movements remained precise and deliberate, each action underscored by a calm mastery that spoke volumes. Tom's earlier derision was replaced by a grudging respect. He approached cautiously, his tone more measured. "You're better than I thought. Maybe there's more to you than meets the eye." Emily's eyes met his briefly, steady and unflinching. She said nothing, letting her shooting speak for itself. The crowd, once skeptical and dismissive, now leaned forward, eager to witness the next chapter in Emily's unfolding story. The quiet woman who had entered the range unnoticed was rapidly becoming its center of gravity, her skill and composure challenging every assumption held by those who had doubted her. The afternoon sun had climbed higher, casting long shadows across the firing range as the crowd gathered closer, their chatter subdued yet charged with curiosity. Emily Carter stood at her lane, the pistol resting quietly on the bench beside her. The air was thick with a mixture of anticipation and newfound respect, a far cry from the sneers and snide remarks that had greeted her arrival hours earlier. As she reached into the sleeve of her lightweight jacket, Emily's fingers brushed against something hidden beneath the fabric, a small, intricate tattoo curling around her wrist. She rolled up her sleeve deliberately, revealing a subtle but distinctive emblem inked in black and gray, a stylized hawk in mid-flight, its wings spread wide, clutching a set of crossed rifles. The design was precise, detailed, and unmistakably linked to an elite tactical shooting school known for training some of the country's most skilled marksmen. The crowd's reaction was immediate and palpable. Whispers spread like wildfire, weaving through the spectators as eyes flicked toward the tattoo with a mix of recognition and awe. Tom, standing near the back of the group, caught sight of the ink and his confident expression faltered for a moment. He exchanged a quick glance with Jake, who nodded subtly, his own gaze sharpened with understanding. "That's the hawk's talon," Jake murmured, barely audible but heavy with meaning. "Only the best get that. It's not just a tattoo, it's a mark of skill and commitment. Those who earn it have undergone some of the most rigorous training out there." Tom's usual bravado dimmed as realization settled in. "I've heard stories about that place," he admitted quietly, almost to himself. "They say they don't just teach shooting, they forge warriors." His tone carried a reluctant respect, the kind that comes when assumptions are dismantled by undeniable truth. Emily's eyes met theirs calmly, her expression steady but resolute. The tattoo was more than a symbol. It was a silent testament to a past few had glimpsed but none could deny. It spoke of discipline, sacrifice, and a depth of experience that transcended the casual judgments of the crowd. The atmosphere shifted palpably, the energy in the air charged with a newfound reverence. The crowd's earlier skepticism had given way to speculation and intrigue, as murmurs of the school's elite reputation circulated among the shooters. A few younger attendees exchanged excited glances, their voices hushed but eager. "If she's from Hawk's Talon, that explains a lot. No wonder she handles that pistol like a pro. I've heard their training is brutal. Only a handful make it through." Emily's presence had transformed from that of a quiet outsider to someone whose very identity commanded attention. The tattoo, once concealed, now served as a bridge connecting her to a legacy that few could claim and even fewer could understand. Tom took a tentative step forward, the veneer of cockiness replaced by genuine curiosity. "So, you're not just some weekend shooter?" His question hung in the air, a challenge softened by respect. Emily nodded, her voice measured in calm. "I trained there for several years. It's not about showing off. It's about precision, control, and discipline. What you see out here is the result of that." The crowd absorbed her words, the weight of her experience settling like a quiet truth among them. Jake stepped closer, offering a nod of approval. "That place changes you. It teaches you to be steady under pressure, to think clearly when everything else is chaos." Emily's calm demeanor hinted at stories untold, hours spent in rigorous drills, the relentless pursuit of perfection, and the unyielding demands of elite training. The tattoo was a symbol not just of skill, but of a journey defined by resilience and dedication. The range, once filled with casual voices and skeptical glances, now resonated with a more profound understanding. The shooters who had doubted her before now exchanged looks of respect, their previous judgments fading into the background. Tom's expression softened further, his earlier arrogance replaced by a thoughtful silence. "I guess we all underestimated you," he admitted quietly. "It's easy to judge someone by how they look, but you've shown us there's a lot more beneath the surface." Emily met his gaze without hesitation. "Skill isn't about appearances. It's about what you've learned and how you apply it. That's what matters." The crowd seemed to absorb her words, the lesson cutting through the noise. The range had become a place of quiet revelation, where assumptions were challenged and respect earned not through bravado, but through undeniable expertise. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over the firing line, Emily's tattoo remained a silent emblem of her past, a reminder of where she had come from and the standards she upheld. The once dismissive crowd now regarded her with a mixture of admiration and curiosity, eager to see what came next. The subtle shift in perception was evident in the way shooters adjusted their stances, the hushed conversations filled with questions and quiet acknowledgments. Emily had not only demonstrated skill, but had unveiled a deeper story, one that commanded respect and invited understanding. Among the spectators, Tyler stepped forward, his eyes alight with newfound respect. "I trained there too," he said softly, nodding toward the tattoo. "Never met you before, but it's clear you've earned that mark." Emily's slight smile was the first real crack in her composed exterior since she'd arrived. "It means a lot coming from someone who knows," she replied quietly. The connection between them spoke volumes, a shared experience that transcended words, a bond forged in the crucible of demanding training and relentless discipline. Jake, observing the interaction, added thoughtfully, "That tattoo isn't just ink. It's a story of perseverance, skill, and a commitment most people don't understand." His voice carried the weight of someone who had witnessed many journeys, recognizing the significance in a single, quiet symbol. The crowd's energy had transformed completely. What began as quiet skepticism had blossomed into a collective acknowledgement of Emily's expertise and background. The firing range, once a place of judgment and doubt, had become a space of respect and curiosity. Emily's revelation had shifted the narrative, revealing layers of complexity beneath her quiet demeanor. The tattoo was a gateway to understanding, breaking down barriers and inviting those around her to see beyond appearances. As the day wore on, the atmosphere remained charged with anticipation. The crowd waited to see how Emily's story would unfold, eager to witness the skill and experience hinted at by the symbol on her wrist. Tom, now a changed man in the eyes of many, glanced toward Emily with a new light in his eyes. "You've got their respect," he said quietly. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Emily nodded, her gaze steady. "Respect is earned, not given. And I'm just getting started." The firing range, once a place of casual competition and dismissive glances, had transformed into a stage where expertise and quiet strength commanded attention. Emily's presence, marked by the tattoo revealed, was no longer a question but a statement, one that resonated deeply with all who witnessed it. The range fell into a hush as Emily lifted the pistol once again. The crowd's collective breath held tight in anticipation. The weight of the moment pressed lightly against the warm afternoon air, a silent tension that vibrated between the firing line and the targets set downrange. All eyes were fixed on her, their faces a mix of awe and expectation, curious to witness the skill that had so thoroughly upended their earlier judgments. Emily's fingers settled firmly on the trigger, the familiar cold metal of the pistol grounding her focus. She adjusted her stance slightly, feet planted with quiet confidence, shoulders squared as she exhaled slowly, centering herself. The faintest flicker of determination shone in her pale blue eyes, steady and unshakable. Then, with a smooth motion, she squeezed the trigger. The pistol's sharp report cracked through the still air, and the bullet struck the target dead center, the bright red bullseye, marked cleanly by a single, precise hole. The crowd exhaled collectively, the silence breaking into murmurs of surprise and admiration. Emily's gaze never wavered as she prepared for the next shot. One by one, her rounds found their mark with unwavering consistency, each bullet piercing the bullseye as if guided by an unerring instinct. The holes clustered tightly together, a testament to her impeccable control and focus. Tom's earlier skepticism had all but dissolved, replaced by a grudging respect that edged into outright amazement. He leaned forward, eyes fixed on the target, the faintest trace of a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "How the hell does she do that?" he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Jake, standing nearby, nodded thoughtfully. "That's the hallmark of someone who's mastered not just the mechanics, but the mental game. It's about calm, control, and muscle memory. She's locked in." The crowd, once noisy and dismissive, had fallen into a reverent silence, watching as Emily methodically repeated her shots. Each one landed with surgical precision, bullseye after bullseye, until the target was a patchwork of perfectly aligned holes, leaving no doubt about her extraordinary skill. A younger shooter named Tyler, who had been watching intently from the sidelines, stepped closer, his eyes wide with admiration. "I've never seen anyone shoot that clean," he whispered to a friend. "It's like she's in complete control of every movement." Emily's breathing remained steady, the calm rhythm fueling her focus. Her every action was deliberate, measured, not a twitch or hesitation betrayed her concentration. The pistol was an extension of her will, each shot a silent declaration of mastery. As she lowered the pistol briefly to reload, the crowd broke into soft, tentative applause. The shift in atmosphere was palpable. The early mockery had given way to genuine respect, the kind earned only through undeniable talent. Tom approached cautiously, his voice lowered, tinged with newfound respect. "I owe you an apology. I didn't expect that from you." Emily's eyes met his, steady and composed, as she nodded once. "Skill speaks louder than words," she replied simply. The applause grew, not just from the shooters, but from others who had gathered, drawn by the rare display of precision. Conversations sparked up, filled with admiration and questions about her technique. Jake stepped forward, his tone warm. "You've got the kind of precision that comes from hard work and dedication. It's impressive." Emily smiled faintly, a rare softness breaking through her composed exterior. "It's taken years to get here. Every shot has a story." The firing range, which had been a place of casual competition and skepticism, had transformed into a stage where Emily's skill commanded attention. The clustered holes in the bullseye were silent proof of her expertise, challenging every assumption made about her. As the last shot rang out, the crowd remained silent for a moment, absorbing what they had witnessed. The atmosphere was thick with respect, the energy shifting from doubt to admiration. Tom extended his hand toward Emily, a gesture of acknowledgement. "You earned it," he said simply. Emily shook his hand firmly, the connection sealing the moment. The crowd around them murmured their approval, the narrative of the day rewritten by the undeniable truth of her skill. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm golden glow over the range as Emily packed away her pistol with the same deliberate care she had shown all day. The transformed crowd lingered, their conversations now centered on respect and the lessons learned from a quiet woman who had shattered their expectations. The day's events resonated beyond the firing line, a reminder that true talent and determination often come wrapped in unexpected packages. Emily's flawless shots left a mark not just on the targets but on the hearts and minds of those who witnessed them, a lasting testament to the power of calm confidence and relentless dedication. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the firing range as a sleek black SUV pulled up beside the gravel parking lot. The vehicle's polished surface gleamed, catching the light and drawing curious glances from the remaining shooters and spectators. From the driver's side emerged a tall man in his early 40s, his presence commanding attention even at a distance. Marcus Lang was a name whispered with respect in shooting circles, a renowned competitive shooter whose reputation for precision and calm under pressure was almost legendary. As Marcus approached the firing line, his sharp eyes scanned the scene, quickly zeroing in on Emily Carter. He moved with an easy confidence, the kind earned through years of competition and countless hours at the range. His gaze held a mixture of recognition and approval as he drew closer, nodding slightly in acknowledgement of the young woman who had captured the attention of everyone present. Tom, who had been standing near the back of the group, straightened as Marcus approached. The deference in his posture was subtle but unmistakable. Marcus's arrival shifted the dynamic once again, introducing a new element of authority and expertise to the unfolding scene. Marcus stopped a few feet from Emily, his eyes locking onto hers with a measured intensity. "Emily Carter," he said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of recognition. "I've heard about you." There was no need for introductions. The name alone commanded respect. Emily met his gaze, her expression composed yet tinged with a quiet pride. "Marcus Lang," she replied simply. "It's been a while." Marcus smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth lifting in a gesture that spoke volumes. "Too long. The shooting community's been missing your presence." His eyes scanned the target downrange, noting the cluster of precise holes marking her performance. "I can see why." The crowd around them shifted, sensing the significance of the exchange. Marcus was not just any shooter. He was a benchmark for excellence, a standard to which many aspired but few attained. His open acknowledgement of Emily elevated the moment, transforming it from a local curiosity into a statement of skill and reputation. Tom's earlier skepticism gave way to amazement as he watched the interaction. The cocky swagger was replaced by a humbled silence. Marcus's endorsement carried weight that no amount of bravado could match. Emily nodded, acknowledging the compliment with a quiet grace. "I stepped away from competition for a while," she explained. "But the skills never really leave you." Marcus's eyes brightened with understanding. "That's true. The best competitors carry their training with them, no matter the time or place." He glanced back at the crowd, then turned to address them. Emily was a national shooting champion, a title that doesn't come easy. Her absence was noticed. The revelation sent a ripple through the crowd. Several shooters exchanged looks of surprise, murmuring among themselves as they absorbed the news. The woman they had quietly watched transform from an unassuming newcomer to a master marksman was, in fact, a champion in her own right. Tyler, standing close by, looked up at Emily with newfound admiration. "You never mentioned that," he said quietly. Emily smiled faintly. "There's time for stories later," she replied, her eyes returning to the target. "Right now, it's about the shot." Marcus's presence seemed to galvanize the crowd. The earlier tension and skepticism had dissolved, replaced by a renewed excitement. The firing range, once a place of casual practice, now felt charged with the energy of competition and respect. Marcus glanced at Emily again, a spark of challenge in his eyes. "Ready to show us what champion form looks like?" Emily's calm demeanor didn't falter. She nodded. "Let's do it." The crowd gathered closer as Emily prepared to fire another series of shots. Marcus observed with the keen eye of a seasoned competitor, noting every detail. The way she adjusted her stance, the subtle shifts in grip, the unwavering focus in her eyes. As Emily fired, each bullet struck the target with flawless accuracy, the cluster of holes growing tighter and more precise. The rhythm of her shots echoed through the range, a testament to years of training and innate skill. Marcus nodded approvingly. "That's the mark of a true champion," he remarked, his voice carrying over the crowd. "Precision, control, and unwavering focus." Tom, watching now with open admiration, found himself at a loss for words. The transformation from skeptic to believer was complete, and the range buzzed with renewed energy. Emily's performance was not just a demonstration of skill. It was a reminder of the dedication and discipline required to reach the pinnacle of the sport. Marcus's arrival had elevated the moment, affirming her reputation and inspiring those who witnessed it. As the final shot rang out, Marcus stepped forward, extending a hand to Emily. "Welcome back," he said simply. Emily shook his hand firmly, the connection between them a silent acknowledgement of shared history and mutual respect. The crowd around them erupted into applause, the sound carrying across the range like a celebration of mastery and perseverance. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the scene. Emily's place at the firing line was no longer in question. With Marcus Lang's recognition and the crowd's admiration, she had solidified her status, not just as a skilled shooter, but as a respected champion returning to the sport she loved. The energy lingered as Marcus turned to the crowd, a smile playing on his lips. "This is what dedication looks like. Let's all remember it." In that moment, the firing range transformed into a place of reverence and inspiration, where skill, respect, and history converged. Emily Carter's story was no longer just her own. It had become a beacon for all who aspired to greatness. The warmth of the late afternoon sun bathed the firing range in a golden hue, casting long, soft shadows across the gravel and wooden benches. The crowd that had gathered now buzzed with a different energy, one of camaraderie and mutual respect. Conversations sparked between shooters, each sharing stories of their own struggles and triumphs, their voices laced with admiration for Emily Carter's unexpected display of skill and composure. Among the group, several shooters stepped forward, their faces marked by a mixture of humility and awe. One by one, they approached Emily, expressing sincere respect and sharing snippets of their own journeys. The range, once a battleground of skepticism and judgment, had transformed into a circle of shared experience and encouragement. Tom, who just days before had been quick to mock her, now stood beside her, his demeanor softened and genuine. "I've been at this for years, and I've never seen anyone shoot with that kind of quiet confidence," he admitted, his voice low but earnest. "You've reminded me why I started shooting in the first place." Emily nodded, her eyes meeting his with understanding. "It's not about how loud you are or the size of your gun collection," she said softly. "It's about focus, patience, and respect for the craft." A young woman named Sarah stepped forward, her hands still shaking slightly from nerves. "I've been struggling with my aim for months," she confessed, glancing down at the ground. "Watching you today, it's inspiring. You make it look achievable." Emily offered a warm smile, placing a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Everyone starts somewhere," she said. "The key is persistence. Every shot is a lesson." Tyler, the lanky young man who had earlier spoken of shared training, lingered nearby, his eyes bright with admiration. "I trained at the same school as you but never crossed paths," he said quietly, stepping closer. "Seeing how you handle yourself out here, it's motivating. You've set a standard we can all strive for." Emily regarded him with a gentle nod, appreciating the unspoken bond between them. "Training is just the beginning," she said. "What matters is how you apply it when it counts." The conversations unfolded naturally, weaving a tapestry of shared struggles and victories. The shooters spoke openly about the challenges of mastering their craft, the endless hours of practice, the frustration of missed shots, and the small moments of triumph that made it all worthwhile. Jake, standing nearby, added his voice to the chorus. "It's easy to forget the mental game," he said thoughtfully. "You've got to fight doubt and fear just as much as you fight gravity and wind." Emily's calm under pressure shows she's mastered both. The atmosphere grew warmer still, filled with encouragement and a sense of belonging. Emily listened as others shared their stories, offering advice and support in return. The range had become more than a place to test skill. It was now a community bound by respect and shared passion. Amidst the exchanges, Emily's quiet strength was a beacon, drawing others out of their shells and inspiring them to push beyond their limits. Her presence was a reminder that talent alone was not enough. Resilience, humility, and dedication were equally vital. As the sun continued its descent, a plan began to take shape among the group. Marcus Lang, who had watched the interactions with a thoughtful smile, stepped forward to address the crowd. "This is what shooting is about," Marcus said, his voice steady and encouraging. "Not just competition or trophies, but growth, respect, and community." Emily's journey exemplifies that. He paused, scanning the faces before him. I propose we organize a friendly contest, something to challenge ourselves and celebrate the skills we've honed. A chance for all of us to learn and grow together. The idea was met with enthusiastic nods and murmurs of agreement. Tyler's face lit up with excitement. Count me in, he said eagerly. It's the perfect way to push our limits. Sarah smiled shyly, buoyed by the prospect. I'd love to participate, she added. It's the motivation I've needed. Tom, now fully transformed from skeptic to supporter, clapped his hands together. All right then, he said with a grin. Let's see if we can keep up with Emily. Emily regarded the group with quiet appreciation, her eyes reflecting the newfound camaraderie. It's not about winning, she said thoughtfully. It's about pushing ourselves, learning from each other, and finding strength in the challenge. The crowd's energy swelled with anticipation, the firing range alive with renewed purpose. Plans were made to set up the contest in the coming days, promising a fresh chapter for the community that had once doubted but now embraced Emily's quiet leadership. As conversations continued, Emily found herself approached by a few of the younger shooters seeking advice on technique and training. She spoke patiently, sharing insights drawn from her own experience without pretense or arrogance. The scene was one of connection and mentorship, a testament to the power of respect earned through skill and humility. The range had become a place not just of competition, but of learning and growth. Tyler lingered nearby, watching Emily interact with the group. You've changed this place, he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. You've shown us what true strength looks like. Emily offered a modest smile. It's the people here that make it special, she replied. We all have something to teach and learn. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft twilight glow over the range. The day's events had transformed not only the crowd's perception, but also the spirit of the community. What had begun as a quiet challenge had blossomed into a shared journey of respect, perseverance, and unexpected connections. Emily packed her gear with deliberate care, the weight of the day's experiences settling comfortably upon her. As she prepared to leave, she glanced back at the group still buzzing with conversation and camaraderie, a living testament to the power of quiet confidence and the bonds forged through shared passion. The firing range, once a place of judgment and doubt, had become a sanctuary of respect and inspiration, an enduring legacy born from the strength of one determined woman and the community she had quietly transformed. The morning air was crisp and alive with anticipation, a gentle breeze rustling through the trees that bordered the firing range. The sun had just begun its climb, casting pale light across the gravel lanes and wooden benches. The crowd that had gathered earlier, now familiar and warm with camaraderie, buzzed with an electric energy, a mixture of excitement and friendly competition. Marcus Lang stood at the forefront, his authoritative presence commanding attention as he addressed the assembled shooters. His voice carried easily across the range, steady and clear. Today isn't just about competition, he began, eyes scanning the eager faces before him. It's about pushing ourselves beyond what we think we're capable of, testing limits, learning from each other, and building the kind of respect that only comes from shared challenge. Emily Carter stood near the firing line, her posture relaxed but alert, the quiet confidence that had defined her presence now a steady flame among the group. Around her, shooters of varying skill levels prepared their gear, the atmosphere charged with purpose. Tom, once the loudest skeptic, now moved through the crowd with an easy smile, encouraging others and sharing tips gleaned from years of experience. Tyler adjusted his stance near the far lane, glancing over at Emily with a nod of quiet encouragement. Sarah, still new to the sport, but brimming with determination, carefully loaded her pistol, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Marcus raised his hand, signaling the start of the contest. We're going to run a series of challenges: accuracy, speed, and composure under pressure. Each will push a different aspect of your skill set. Remember, it's about growth, not just hitting the target. The first round began with a test of precision. Targets were set at varying distances, some deceptively simple, others demanding careful calculation. Emily stepped forward, her movements fluid and deliberate. She raised her pistol, aligning the sights with a practiced eye, and fired. The bullet struck true, a perfect hit that drew approving murmurs from the crowd. One by one, the shooters took their turns, each effort met with encouragement rather than judgment. The range echoed with the sharp cracks of gunfire, punctuated by the soft sounds of shifting feet and whispered advice. As Emily continued through the challenges, her focus never wavered. Her shots were consistently precise, each one a testament to her years of training and quiet determination. The crowd watched closely, some taking mental notes, others inspired by her calm under pressure. Tyler's turn came, and he approached the line with a steady breath. His shots were good, solid and confident, but a fraction off the flawless execution Emily displayed. She offered him a nod of approval as he stepped back, recognizing the effort and progress behind each round. The second challenge tested speed and accuracy, requiring shooters to fire multiple rounds in rapid succession without sacrificing precision. Emily's movements were a dance of control and efficiency. She loaded, aimed, and fired with a rhythm that was both swift and meticulous. Her bullets clustered tightly, each one finding its mark with unerring consistency. The crowd's admiration grew, their earlier excitement deepening into respect. Conversations broke out about technique and strategy, with Emily often at the center, her quiet expertise guiding and inspiring. During a brief pause, Sarah approached Emily hesitantly. "How do you stay so calm when the pressure's on?" she asked, her voice low but earnest. Emily smiled gently. "It's about controlling what you can, your breath, your focus, your mindset," she explained. "Pressure is part of the game. The key is not letting it control you." Sarah nodded thoughtfully, absorbing the wisdom. "I want to get there someday." "You will," Emily assured her. "It takes time and patience, but every shot counts." The final challenge tested composure under simulated stress, unexpected distractions, time limits, and moving targets. The shooters faced a gauntlet of mental and physical demands designed to push their limits. Emily stepped up with the same composed demeanor that had become her hallmark. Each shot was deliberate, precise, and steady, despite the added chaos. Her calmness anchored the crowd's attention, a steady beacon amid the flurry of activity. The other shooters pushed themselves hard, inspired by her example. As the contest drew to a close, Marcus gathered the group once more. "You all showed tremendous growth today," he said, his tone warm and proud. "This is the spirit of the sport: challenge, respect, and continuous improvement." He turned to Emily with a smile. "You set the bar high and reminded us all what dedication looks like." Emily nodded, humbled but confident. "It's about the journey, not just the destination," she replied. The crowd erupted into applause, the sound carrying across the range like a celebration of shared achievement. Shooters exchanged congratulations, their bonds strengthened by the day's challenges and lessons. As the sun climbed higher, casting bright light over the transformed firing range, Emily felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The contest had been more than a test of skill. It was a testament to growth, resilience, and the power of community. Tom approached her, a grin spreading across his face. "You weren't kidding about pushing limits," he said. "I've learned more today than in months before." Tyler nodded in agreement. "This has been amazing. Thanks for leading the way." Emily smiled, the warmth of connection filling her. "We all have something to offer," she said, "and so much more to learn." The day closed with plans for future gatherings, a community now bound not just by shared interest, but by mutual respect and the pursuit of excellence. Emily's quiet confidence had sparked a transformation, a ripple effect that would continue to inspire long after the last shot was fired. The firing range was alive with energy as Emily Carter stepped onto the line for the final challenge of the day. The sun was dipping low, casting a warm, orange glow that stretched long shadows across the gravel lanes and target frames. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the air buzzing not just with the sound of gunfire, but with the quiet respect that had blossomed among the shooters and spectators alike. Emily's stance was impeccable, feet planted firmly, shoulders squared, and eyes locked on the target. Her hands, steady and sure, gripped the pistol with a confidence born of years spent mastering every nuance of her craft. The crowd hushed as she raised the weapon, her focus absolute, as if the world had narrowed to the small bullseye just meters away. With a smooth breath, she squeezed the trigger. The crack of the shot echoed sharply, the bullet piercing the center of the target. Without hesitation, Emily reloaded swiftly, her movements fluid and practiced. One shot after another found the bullseye, each one fired in a rapid but controlled succession that dazzled the crowd. Tom, standing near the back, watched with wide eyes and a humbled expression. The bravado that had marked his earlier demeanor had been replaced by genuine admiration. He glanced sideways at Tyler and Sarah, who were equally captivated, their faces lit with awe. Emily's rapid-fire sequence was flawless, each bullet landing precisely where intended, the cluster of holes so tight it seemed almost impossible. Every shot spoke volumes of discipline, control, and an unshakable calm under pressure. As the final bullet struck its mark, the crowd erupted into applause, the sound swelling like a wave across the range. Murmurs of disbelief and praise echoed, many shaking their heads in astonishment. The moment had crystallized into something unforgettable, a demonstration of skill that transcended mere competition. Tom stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with respect. "Emily, I owe you an apology. I judged you too quickly, and I was wrong. Your skill, it's something else entirely." Emily met his gaze, her expression calm but sincere. "It happens. What matters is what we do next." The crowd nodded, the lesson clear and deeply felt. The transformation from doubt to respect had been complete, and it was Emily's unwavering dedication that had led the way. Tyler approached next, extending a hand with a smile. "You've set a new standard for all of us. Thank you for showing what's possible." Emily shook his hand warmly. "We all have potential. Sometimes it just takes a little belief and a lot of practice to unlock it." Sarah, still catching her breath from the intensity of the challenge, stepped forward as well. "Watching you today gave me hope. I want to keep pushing to get better." Emily's eyes softened. "That's the spirit. Keep at it, and you'll surprise yourself." Jake, who had observed quietly from the sidelines, added his voice to the chorus of praise. This wasn't just a demonstration of skill. It was a lesson in perseverance and humility. Marcus Lang, the esteemed shooter whose earlier arrival had shifted the tide of opinion, stepped forward with a smile of approval. "Emily, you've reminded us all why we love this sport. Your precision, your composure, it's what champions are made of." The crowd's energy was electric, the shared experience binding them together in a moment that transcended competition. Emily's performance had become a symbol of what could be achieved through dedication and quiet confidence. Tom extended his hand again, this time with a genuine smile. "Shake on it. You're one of us now." Emily took his hand firmly, the gesture sealing a newfound camaraderie. The crowd cheered, the sound carrying into the fading light. As the day wound down, conversations flowed freely, filled with stories of struggle and triumph, of lessons learned and goals yet to be reached. Emily found herself surrounded by shooters both seasoned and new, each eager to connect and grow. The firing range, once a place of judgment and doubt, had transformed into a sanctuary of respect and inspiration. Emily's journey had become a beacon, illuminating the path for others to follow. She packed her gear slowly, taking in the scene, the smiles, the shared glances, the quiet nods of acknowledgement. The legacy she was building was not just about marks on paper targets, but about breaking barriers and fostering community. As twilight deepened, Emily looked up at the sky, the first stars beginning to twinkle. The journey was far from over, but the day's events had marked a turning point, a testament to the power of perseverance, skill, and the courage to rise above doubt. The firing range settled into a peaceful quiet, the echoes of the day lingering in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. Emily's story, etched into the fabric of this place, would inspire long after the last shot was fired. The fading glow of twilight softened the edges of the firing range as Emily Carter carefully packed away her pistol, the day's events still humming through the air like a living pulse. The crowd that had gathered earlier lingered, their conversations now tinged with reflection and newfound respect. What had begun as a scene of skepticism and quiet challenge had transformed into a tapestry of shared understanding and admiration. Tom stood nearby, his earlier arrogance replaced by a thoughtful quietness. He scanned the faces of his fellow shooters, many of whom were still exchanging stories and insights sparked by Emily's presence. "I never thought I'd say this," he admitted low enough for only Emily to hear. but you changed how I see things here. Not just about shooting, but about people. Emily glanced up, her expression calm and steady. It's easy to judge when you don't know the story, but respect grows with understanding. The firing range, once a place echoing with dismissive laughter and whispered doubts, had become a sanctuary of learning and growth. Plans were whispered among the group to erect a memorial wall, one that would honor those whose dedication and stories had shaped the community. Emily's name was already spoken with reverence, her legacy beginning to take root. Marcus Lang approached, his presence a steadying force. "You've left an indelible mark here," he said quietly. "Not just with your skill, but with your humility and strength. People don't forget that." Emily nodded, the weight of the day settling comfortably on her shoulders. "It's never been about the accolades. It's about the journey and the people we meet along the way." Amidst the crowd, Jake caught her eye and nodded approvingly. "You've inspired a lot of us, Emily, including me." The respect in his voice was genuine, a testament to the transformation that had unfolded in the course of a single day. Outside the range, the first stars blinked awake against the darkening sky. The cool night air carried whispers of stories yet to be told and challenges yet to be faced. Emily's thoughts drifted toward a new mission, one hinted at by Colonel Patricia Hawkins, a figure from her past who had spoken of secrets buried deep in Prague. A mission that might uncover survivors and truths long thought lost. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and the unknown. Yet Emily's resolve was unwavering. The strength that had carried her through every shot today would guide her forward. As the group began to disperse, Emily lingered for a moment longer, her gaze sweeping over the transformed range. The laughter and judgment had been replaced by respect and camaraderie, a testament to the power of perseverance and quiet confidence. Her story had become more than a demonstration of skill. It was a beacon for those who had ever been underestimated or overlooked. A reminder that true strength often lies beneath the surface, waiting to be recognized. With a final glance at the setting sun, Emily shouldered her bag and stepped away from the firing line, ready to face whatever the future held. The lessons of the day, the humility, the respect, the resilience, were etched into her very being. The firing range, now a place of honor and inspiration, echoed softly with the promise of new beginnings. Emily's legacy was no longer just a memory. It was a living force, one that would continue to shape lives and stories for years to come. And as the night settled in, the quiet woman with unwavering resolve disappeared into the shadows, prepared to write the next chapter of her journey.